So now it's 2013 and I'm in Japan, and I head down to a place called Yakushima. It's in the south of Honshu, off Kagoshima. It's known for having really old cedar trees, thousands of years old, and there's one called Jomonsugi. I think it might be about 6,000 years old. But the reason it's there is because it's gnarled. They chopped down all the best, the straightest ones in the past to use for, I presume, boats and houses and all the rest of it. Probably mostly for boats, I would say. But anyway, there's huge forests full of cedar trees, and there's a lot of rainfall there as well, so you get waterfalls and everything, and there's deer on there. And it's also was used in Princess Mononoke Hime, the Ghibli animation, as kind of a model for the place, so some people might recognize it from there. Anyway, I went down there, went down to Kagoshima, and then got a ferry across to the island, and my plan was to walk across the whole thing. So I started at one side and then walked halfway and stayed at a hut in the middle, and then crossed over the top, leaving about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning the next morning. And I remember seeing running into deers on the track as well. I had to shoo them away, and it's amazing to hear the call of the deers through the mist as well. In this environment too, just this rainy environment, just pure nature basically, with all these cedar trees around, cedar forests, huge cedar forests. And so I crossed over the highest point of the island, walked about 50 k's all up, and then I was starting to get hypothermic because it does get quite cold on top, about 1,000 meters or so, I think, at the top there, and beautiful rock formations as well. Then I started to come down the other side, still cold, but because you're moving, then you generate a little bit of heat, your muscles are firing and stuff, so I'm kind of used to that. But sometimes you lose a bit of function in your hands, so you can't undo clips and things like that if you get really cold, or that's what happens to me anyway. But I just took snacks, nuts and whatnot, but I usually just have chocolate, dark chocolate if I can. So I had pieces of chocolate and nuts and whatnot. Anyway, I crossed it overnight, and then as I got to the coast, it warms up again once you're down on the coast. So once I got down closer to the coast, then I started to warm up and I was fine again. But yeah, that was another amazing little trip as well. Then went back to Tokyo, and I usually go up a mountain called Mount Takao, just outside of Tokyo, about an hour away. I lived there for a couple of years as well, and I've been up that now over 500 times. I used to run up and then run back down in the mornings, and you can see Mount Fuji in the distance as well. It's a beautiful view out there. It's only 600 meters high, so it would take me about 40 minutes to walk up, I think. And then one time I think I got down in about 20 minutes running back down. And you see snakes, and there's supposed to be monkeys and stuff around as well. There's a little monkey park up there. But one time I was going up in the mist, and I had my video camera with me, and a wild boar, wild piglets I should say, appeared. 8 of them, just sniffing around in the dirt there, and I thought, oh, where's the mother? And then I didn't take out my camera either. I was just more concerned about where the mother was, because they're known for attacking people, especially if they've got little ones. I mean, that's their prime reason to attack, to defend their little ones. If out of nowhere, you probably have less of a chance of getting attacked if they're just by themselves or whatever. But anyway, I made sure I wasn't between the little ones and so on, and her, if she was around, or hopefully I wasn't, because I was still coming up the track. And then she appeared out of the mist, running, and she just went, "Ooh," and then the little ones followed her. She turned around before she got to me and went back into the mist, and then they all followed her back down a really steep hill. So that was lucky, I suppose, but it was an amazing experience. But out of over 500 times going up there, that was the only time I saw a wild boar. I've seen snakes and toads up there, giant toads up there, And just recently there was a report that there's a bear sighting there, because there's been a lot more bears appearing closer to civilization, closer to the towns there in Japan in the last few years, probably because of lack of food resources. Anyway, so I did that, and then in the same year I went over to Borneo, and I wanted to go there because my dad went there years ago in 1983 or in the 80s, I think, might have been 85, I'm not sure. But at that time, about 80% of Borneo, it's an island in Malaysia, the forests were intact. The virgin forests, or the primal forests, I suppose, they were still intact. But when I went in 2013, I think that had dropped to just the reverse, 20% left or something like that. So I went up Mount Kinabalu as well, which is the highest peak there. That was amazing, going up there with a guide as well. And I was sitting on top in the morning in the darkness, ready to take a photo of the sunrise of the summit at sunrise. And the sun came up, and I realised that I was just sitting right on the edge of a cliff, and I almost fell off. I was only this far away, just sitting in the rocks, but it was a direct drop, vertical drop down. I don't know how many meters, 50 meters or more, I suppose. But yeah, I got my photos and stuff, and I had a waterproof lens cover at that stage, but I could get my whole body inside. It was a huge one, so I got inside that just to stay warm, because I was freezing on top waiting for the sunrise. I think we got up there at 4 or so. Usually people would get up there a bit later, but yeah, had a prime position to get some shots and whatnot. And then we ran back down. I had a big pack on, but I ran back down with a guide who was only 18, I think. So I ran all the way, and that was good fun. I do that a lot if I can. I like to run down mountains and run all over the place, because I don't really get tired. And I'm sure that I saw Venus flytraps there as well, even though I read that they're only in a particular place in the US, I heard. But anyway, and then there's the largest flower in the world there as well, and orangutans too. I was walking through the forest, and we came across an orangutan mother with her baby there, and she was just making motions like just to let us know to keep our distance. But that was an amazing little experience. And then going up the Kinabatangan River as well there, and saw a tarsier, which is a slow-moving marsupial with huge eyes. I think they eat crickets and whatnot, but they're slow-moving like a sloth, have a similar kind of composition. And we were going up the river towards sunset, I suppose, and we just turned off the motor of the boat and let the rivers take us back down in silence. And then a forest elephant appeared on one side of the river, and it walked across and went into the forest. And we also saw a male orangutan up in the trees as well, just by himself, huge. So that it's pretty surreal to see that. If you're walking through a forest, you can see the nests, because they change their nests every night. They make a new nest, so they're master nest builders. But it's surreal to be walking through a forest and to think that there's a large intelligent primate living in there that you might come across. And then up to the pinnacles as well, these limestone pinnacles. And on the way up, if you slip, you're going to slash your hand open or something open, because you have to go over all these limestone casts, I suppose. And then there's ladders that they've strapped to some parts up the top. You get up on them, and then you can look out, and then you see a big wall of limestone casts coming out. The pinnacles themselves, these sharp pinnacles coming out of the forest. And then into the Mulu caves. They were known as had the largest chamber in the world. I think you could fit a couple of 747s in there or something like that. But now I think there's another cave in Vietnam that people say has a larger chamber. And then on the Kinabatangan, going back there, then we came across a big tree with tons of fireflies on it, just it was lighting up like a huge Christmas tree. So that was an amazing little experience. But it's a beautiful place there still. Even though when I was flying into one area, I think it might have been Mulu, then you can see the jungle, and then there's just a line where they've just chopped down all the trees, and they're using it for palm oil plantations, so just monoculture. So you just see the same pattern from the air. And in Malaysia in general, you just see this same pattern. It looks like, what could be grass, and that's when you know that there's palm oil there. So that was another beautiful little experience, and I was there for, I think, a week or two, not too long, but it was enough to get around and to see the place.